Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Yes, I always do this for testing the sound. Hare Krishna, not always, but always we use that word too easy sometimes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I want to make a point today, or a realization. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The point is, there's a problem. There is really something wrong when we follow someone who says he is an authority, but he is not. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When someone forces you then you are not a volunteer anymore. If someone forces you, then if you're forced into it's always it's always a problem. So I use the word always. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I don't know always. But I trust that Krishna knows always. There's some authoritative, genuine God that knows what's going on, and He can oversee the whole process and everyone's process. All the processes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. So who am I to judge about one process one movement. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. So I trust, I have to trust that he knows what he's doing. He also knows when he is delegating what are the consequences for everyone, for every detail, for everyone. Hare Krishna, Krishna. So what can I do? What is my own power to take shelter, to surrender? To the right, to the pure, to the genuine, to the authentic. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. So how to distinguish between the authentic, genuine authority and the distorted, polluted, pseudo, perverted reflection, shadow. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. We all have a heart. And my hope is on that heart that we can distinguish by our heart. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mora, Mora, Mora. Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. I pay my obeisances to that source, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. I call him Shri Krishna. That he is the ruler of all the worlds. That he is the controller and the facilitator, the maintainer. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Sometimes sounds wake me up. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So I made my point. And now I can continue. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's separate the wheat from the shaft. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Facilitator. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare. You just run out of happiness. credits. Please fill up your account. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah, how can we fill up our account? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. We're connecting to the source. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. What's the name of that source? What's the name of that supplier? That authorized supplier, authorized distributor of conclusive happiness, conclusive truth, and conclusive consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So there are different processes going on, and everyone is attracted, is a participant according to his faith, his surrendering. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. If I believe it, if I take refuge, oh my God. Then my fate is in those hands. Mijn lot. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. What's the English name of Lot? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, I want to read in a moment. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My fate, yeah. My destiny. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So this is how important it is to carefully distinguish your direction, who you follow, who you listen to. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Because it determines your destiny, your fate, your lot. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So what is the value of these pastimes? Listening to these pastimes. Hare Krishna, Krishna. The value is that you can remember Shravanam. Remember the priorities. Remember where you are really safe. Supreme safety. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. To glorify the supreme safe one, to glorify the supreme shelter. Yeah, I found a word. 2 words. Supreme shelter. Now I'm awake again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, supreme shelter. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. But the Supreme Being, who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter, is independent of all, and therefore he is the Supreme Shelter. Okay. I don't understand immediately, but I want to dive into this. Let's milk this out. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 2.10.9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. May this be functional, beneficial. Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. All 3 of above-mentioned stages of different entities are interdependent. In the absence of one, another is not understood, but the Supreme Being who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter is independent of all, and therefore he is the Supreme Shelter. Whoa, that's a lot. Hare Krishna, Canto 2, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Cosmic Manifestation. Chapter 10, verse 9. When there are, I can start with the purport or the previous verses. Let me start with the previous verses. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Chapter 10. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Text 1. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, sub-creation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of manus, the signs of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the summum bonum. Wow. To isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum, the symptoms of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic inference, sometimes by direct explanation, and sometimes by summary explanations given by the great sages. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, that's a difficult sentence for me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. I chant because I feel this genuine contact with my unpolluted self than the unnecessary dissolves into the background. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Okay, I made a selection. I jump to text 6. The merging of the living entity, along with his conditional living tendency, with the mystic lying down of the Mahavishnu, is called the winding up of the cosmic manifestation. Liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable gross and subtle material bodies. So the liberation is the permanent original situation, the authentic situation. Liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable, gross and subtle material bodies. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, and I feel this respect for everyone's experiment, for everyone's path. Path is an experiment. We all come to this ultimate realization of the truth, but someone wants to explore that path, and someone wants to explore that path. And there's no authorized person or soul who can judge about this. It's a freedom. They are all respectable paths. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Supreme One, who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul, is the Supreme Source of the cosmic manifestation, as well as its reservoir and winding up. Thus, he is the Supreme Fountainhead, the Absolute Truth. The individual person possesses different instruments of senses, is called the Adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adhidevik. Adhidevik. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called Adibhautic person. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I feel I have to look into that. Yes, there's a reasonable purport. Hare Krishna by Srila Prabhupada. The supreme controlling summum bonum is the personality of Godhead. The supreme controlling summum bonum is the personality of Godhead. Yes. In his plenary portion of Paramatma, or the Super Soul manifestation, in the Bhagavad Gita 10:42 it said, all the controlling deities like Vishnu Brahma and Shiva are different manifestations of the Paramatma feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, who exhibits himself in such manners by entering into each and every universe generated from him. But still, apparently, there are divisions of the controller and controlled. For example, in the food controlling department, the controller of food is a person made of the same ingredients as the person who is controlled. Similarly, each and every individual in the material world is controlled by the higher demigods. Wow, this is exactly what I want to look at. Similarly, each and every individual in the material world is controlled by the higher demigods. Similarly, each and every individual in the material world is controlled by the higher demigods. For example, we have our senses. But the senses are controlled by superior controlling deities. We cannot see without light, and the supreme controller of light is the sun. The sun god is the sun planet, and we, the individual human beings or any other beings on this earth, are all controlled by the sun god as far as our eyes are concerned. Similarly, all the senses we have are controlled by the superior demigods. Well, all the senses we have are controlled by the superior demigods, who are also as much living entities as we are. But one is empowered while the other is controlled. Wow, that's also very clear. One is empowered while the other is controlled. This remembers me of empowered is liberated, and controlled is conditioned. The controlled living entity is called the Adhyatmic person. The controlled living entity is called the Adhyatmic person. And the controller is called the Adi Devic person. All these positions in the material world are due to different fruitive activities. All these positions in the material world are due to different fruitive activities. Any individual living being can become the sun god, or even Brahma, or any other god in the upper planetary system by a higher grade of pious work. And similarly, one becomes controlled by the higher demigods by lower grades of fruitive activities. So every individual living entity is subject to the supreme control of the Paramatma, who puts everyone in different positions of the controller and the controlled. Wow, exactly. So every individual living entity is subject to the supreme control of the Paramatma, who puts everyone in different positions of the controller and the controlled. So here we have this, the one who positions us. I previously called this the supreme facilitator. That which distinguishes the controller and controlled. That which distinguishes the controller and controlled, for instance the material body, is called the Adibhautik Purusha. That which distinguishes the controller and controlled. The Yoyonap Prachodayat. Give us the understanding to distinguish. The body is sometimes called Purusha. The body is sometimes called Purusha, as confirmed in the Vedas in the following hymn. Sa va esha Purusho na rasamaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. This body is called the Anaras embodiment. This body depends on food. The living entity which is embodied does not eat anything. The living entity which is embodied does not eat anything. However, because the owner is spirit in essence, the material body requires replacement of matter for the wearing and tearing of the mechanical body. Therefore, the distinction between the individual living entity and controlling planetary deities is in the Anarasamaya body. Annamaya Kosha. Annamaya Kosha. The sun may have a gigantic body, and the man may have a smaller body, but all these visible bodies are made of matter. Nonetheless, the sun god and the individual person, who are related as the controller and the controlled, are the same spiritual parts and parcels of the Supreme Being, and it is the Supreme Being who places different parts and parcels in different positions, and thus the conclusion is that the Supreme Person is the shelter of all. Wow, how wonderful. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Let's see. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. Everything's under control. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Everything's functioning well. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 9. All three of the above mentioned stages of different living entities are interdependent. In the absence of one, another is not understood. But the Supreme Being who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter is independent of all, and therefore he is the supreme shelter. Purport. There are innumerable living entities. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. There are innumerable living entities, one dependent of the other, on the other, in the relationship of the controlled and the controller. But without the medium of perception, no one can know or understand who is the controlled and who is the controller. That was my question, yes. But without the medium of perception, no one can know or understand who is the controlled and who is the controller. For example, the sun controls the power of our vision. The sun controls the power of our vision. We can see the sun because the sun has its body, and the sunlight is useful only because we have eyes. Without our having eyes, the sunlight is useless. And without sunlight, the eyes are useless. Thus, they are interdependent. And none of them is independent. Yes, there's a transmitter and a receiver. The one who radiates and the one who receives. Therefore, the natural question arises concerning who made them interdependent. Who made them interdependent? The one who has made such a relationship of interdependence must be ultimately completely independent. The one who has made such relationship of interdependence must be ultimately completely independent. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Whoa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Whoa. Completely independent and completely interdependent. That reminds me of the Radha Krishna relationship. There is interdependence, but it's completely. As stated in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the ultimate source of all interdependent objectives is the complete independent subject. This ultimate source of all interdependence is the Supreme Truth or Paramatma, the Supersoul, who is not dependent on anything else. He is Svashraya Shraya. Shraya Shray. He is the only dependent on itself, on himself, and thus he is the supreme shelter of everything. Although Paramatma and Brahman are subordinate to Bhagavan, because Bhagavan is Purushottama, or the super person. He is the source of the super soul also. He is the source of the super soul also. He is the soul. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. He is the source of the super soul also. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:19, Lord Krishna says that he is the Purushottama and the source of everything. And thus it is concluded that Sri Krishna is the ultimate source and shelter of all entities, including the Super Soul and Supreme Brahman. Even accepting that there is no difference between the Super Soul and the individual soul, the individual soul is dependent on the Super Soul for being liberated from the illusion of material energy. Wow! Hare Krishna. Even accepting that there is no difference between the super soul and the individual soul, the individual soul is dependent on the super soul for being liberated from the illusion of material energy. So, the super soul is the liberator, and the individual soul can also become a liberator when it's empowered by a super soul and eventually by Bhagavan, the source, the supreme source person. The individual is under the clutches of illusionary energy. The individual is under the clutches of illusionary energy, and therefore, although qualitatively one with the super soul, he is under the illusion of identifying himself with matter. Wow. And to get out of this illusionary conception of factual life, the individual soul has to depend on the super soul to be recognized as one with him. In that sense, also the super soul is the supreme shelter. And there is no doubt about it. The individual living entity, the jiva, is always dependent on the supersoul, Paramatma, because the individual soul forgets his spiritual identity, whereas the supersoul, Paramatma, does not forget his transcendental position. In the Bhagavad Gita, these separate positions of the Jivatma and the Paramatma are specifically mentioned. In the 4th chapter, Arjuna, the Jiva soul is represented as forgetful of his many previous births. But the Lord, the Super Soul, is not forgetful. The Lord even remembers when he taught the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god some billions of years before. The Lord can remember such millions and billions of years, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7:26 as follows. The Lord, in his eternal blissful body of knowledge, is fully aware of all that happened in the past. That which is going on at the present and also what will happen in the future. But in spite of his being the shelter of both the Paramatma and Brahman, persons with a poor fund of knowledge are unable to understand him as he is. The propaganda of the identity of cosmic consciousness, which the consciousness of the individual living entities is completely misleading, because
even such a person or individual soul as Arjuna could not remember his past deeds. Although he is always with the Lord, and what can the tiny, ordinary man falsely claiming to be one with the cosmic consciousness know about his past, present, and future? Yes, this is the end of the purport. And that brings me to that word false. Falsely claiming, then he's not a real, authentic authority. And he's not fully equipped to lead us. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Only one empowered by the Supreme Source, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, is authorized. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, I feel this. It's easy to think that this is going too fast. And it's above my head. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. But the trust, the faith in the resident of Vrindavan, in a guru, is enough. Just to take that association, to take that subordinate position, to follow. Well, even a leader, a genuine leader, he also is a genuine follower. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. The genuine leader is a genuine follower. The real leader is the real follower. That's why we call it disciplic line. Hare Krishna. Every teacher, every leader has a previous one, and the previous one is still living in the transcendental. It's still a living, functional mercy. Living, functional mercy. Living monk, functional monk. A monk. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. A monk, living, functional, merciful being who can deliver the mercy. Bring it on. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Continue the pure, continue the pure substance. Continue the pure substance. What is this pure substance? It's Satchidananda. Continuously Satchidananda. Nitya Satchidananda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so this, maybe until now, I was convincing myself and doing things in my own pace. Maybe later, maybe next time, I can make contact with souls and and help them more efficiently. Hare Krishna. This is one of the teachings today. Yes, of course I wanted this contact. I wanted this contact. I felt that I have to establish that contact, and then I can bring it on. It's like in an airplane, you first put your mask on your own mouth and nose, and then you can breathe, and only then you're able to help others. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So I feel until now my process was to catch that mask as fast as possible. And maybe you could not follow, someone else could not follow. What is he doing? What is he doing? But now, having this connection, I can help others to connect to the oxygen, to the living substance. Wow, Hare Krishna. I feel this was a nice, metaphor. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Govinda Das, welcome. Lalita Lanka, oh, I'm happy to see you. Haribol. Het Bach slecht internet hier. Heb herhaaldelijk moeten herproberen om je te kunnen zien. I really appreciate your determination. Hare Krishna, appreciation. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. I feel we have a lot to communicate about. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Andromeda Palazzolo. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Not only to talk about, but to feel that we are in the same line. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. It's okay, meaning it's Krishna conscious. Srila Prabhupada, he taught me, okay is Krishna conscious. When you are Krishna conscious, then it's okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, I feel I'm finished for this moment. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Maybe I still have some time to do shopping in the material world. Hare Krishna, get some material food, or just also some movement. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare. And meanwhile, this transcendental realm, this transcendental dimension is doing its job. And Krishna Bhagavan is doing his job, and he's taking care of everything perfectly. For every individual soul, for every individual progress. He's the perfect maintainer, the perfect gardener, the perfect distributor, the perfect teacher, and the perfect the perfect lover, the perfect attraction. There was another word. Perfect. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram. The perfect facilitator. That's the one. Okay, Haribol, thank you for connecting. Thank you for your attention. Haribol.